Hello, everybody. This is Pegram Harrison from Oxford University, here to talk about the Oxford Transition to Leadership program, our executive education program for people making a transition into a leadership role. I'm joined today by a very recent participant on the program, Claire Bloomfield, who finished a few weeks ago and has kindly come to join us to talk about her experience of the program. And in the course of this webinar, we will discuss the content as well as what it's like to be part of the program, and also answer any questions that you might have. So to begin, let me just introduce Claire and ask her to say her name and say hello to you. So Claire Bloomfield, welcome to the webinar.
Thank you, Pegram. Good morning.
Thank you very much for joining us. We're most grateful for your contribution. Now, everybody, here is what we do on the Oxford Transition to Leadership program. We've got a model for the architecture of the program that also reflects what we're trying to achieve in each of the participants' experience. On the one side, you see that we're looking at your skills today on the left, how that reflects your role as a manager, perhaps. And in the first module, we emphasize understanding where you are today. And by the last module, we move up to thinking about you in a leadership role rather than a managerial role, and also equipping you as a leader for tomorrow rather than today. In other words, it's the start of a process that we help facilitate and that you take responsibility for in expanding the impact of your career. We, in the middle, mix those two emphases, the managerial and the leadership emphases, in various ways so that there's a natural transition from where you begin to where you want to go. That's our overall learning module. I can explain all that in a little bit more detail with some indication of the content of the three modules. And then I'm going to ask Claire some questions about what it was like for her in each of those modules. So in a bit more detail, the first module emphasizes where you are now, understanding better with a higher degree of self-awareness your current skill levels and also your current areas for improvement or development. We'll look at how you work in your current job and how the changes in your current environment are beginning to create opportunities or challenges for your current situation. Module 1 really emphasizes that development of self-awareness with a view to understanding what you've got to work with and what that means for your potential in the future. Module 2 is thinking about yourself in the context of others, so the kinds of things you deal with positively and negatively when working with groups and teams, how the role of creativity and innovation facilitate your effectiveness, and also how your organization interacts with other organizations and your place in that. Basically, this is all about beginning to understand how you as an individual or your organization as an individual organization connects to the wider context in which you're operating. And then finally, Module 3 looks at the implications of thinking about yourself today and yourself with others for the leadership responsibilities that you're taking forward into the future. Module 3 is about developing your leadership effectiveness to a higher level, choosing the challenges that you are going to be facing, and equipping yourself to face them optimally. Now, Claire.
Yes, Pegram.
Tell us a bit about whether or not this architecture that I've just described really reflects what you feel happened on the three modules that you've just finished.
It does. I think going back is probably not as clear in my mind as this lovely picture demonstrates in front of us now, but it's certainly the experience module by module that I had, and also met the expectations, I think, initially, particularly around the first blue triangle, as to what I thought the program would offer. And that combination of hard skills that we focused on slightly more in module 1, and then slightly softer, bigger more conceptual aspects that we focused on in Module 2 and then bringing those together in Module 3.
Oh, that's really good to know. And that terminology of hard skills and soft skills is important, because the hard skills are kind of easy to think about and therefore easy to measure, and probably those are the ways your performance is measured most of the time. But would you agree that the emphasis on soft skills from the second module is just as important, that we need to be more aware of those things and develop those things in order to get the most out of our hard skills?
I would be entirely biased and probably say it's even more important now, having come through the programme, that it was incredibly valuable to reinforce some of the hard skills that I already had and have that time to reflect and consolidate that with some new skills. But actually the thing I've taken away most from the programme is enhanced confidence in the breadth and depth of skills you need for leadership, which are those softer, less quantifiable skills that really allow you to have real impact. So I think that's one of the huge values and rewards I've taken away from being involved in the programme.
I'm really glad to hear it. And do you find that other people on the program felt the same, that there was this rising awareness of the importance of concentrating on soft skill development that might not have been there when people first arrived, but developed during the program?
Definitely, and I can think of specific examples of a number of the fellow alumni that you could see people almost having an epiphany of realising the importance of some of the things they might have placed less focus on, particularly coming from more corporate settings, that they wouldn't historically have placed that emphasis on those, but they realised the impact and the value. And I think although everybody's experience was unique, I think we've all come away with a shared perspective that's broadened our horizons as to the importance of those skills.
That is great to hear. I'm very gratified, because it's certainly what we're aiming for. And you also imply that shared experience is an important element to the program. And there's probably a lot of reasons for that. Is it partly because by sharing experience with other people at the same career stage, you're really identifying the things that are important at that career stage? And also, is it just that you learn more from each other than you could have expected in advance?
Certainly, and I think that's something that you reinforced for us to reflect on as we were on the programme. But I think I was certainly reticent before the course, imagining who the other attendees might be and where they'd be coming from and what their experiences and backgrounds would be. But actually, the diversity and the different experiences were so valuable in just broadening horizons and getting different perspectives, that although, as you say, people are coming at this at a similar stage in their career, the backgrounds and experiences of everybody is different, and everybody, you take out what you put in, and people were very courageous in sharing their backgrounds and their experiences to help others learn and gain even more from the program than if you'd been working one-on-one with a program coordinator.
So that diversity is just as important as the alignment of career stage, because you learn not just from similarities in your colleagues, but from their complementarities.
It's helpful to look outside of your own particular silo of industry and get different perspectives from those working in the public, private sector, small companies, large global organisations, and just those different perspectives. There's commonalities and then there's differences that are really useful to be able to reflect on.
Now, on the program that you attended, which was similar demographically to most other programs, we had people from, as you say, big organizations and small. We had people from relatively far away from the UK and also right here in Oxford. We had people in entrepreneurial companies as well as very bureaucratic organizations. And we had people with completely divergent sectoral experience, ranging from retail or hotels all the way to university administration or
government civil service. I think before coming into the course, it's really hard to establish who the other attendees will be. You can look at the brochure and try and get a sense of the demographics, but you really I certainly felt slightly anxious coming in, that maybe was I going to be a good fit? Was I at the right point? Were these people going to be more influential and in more powerful positions, and I was going to be sort of lost to swim? But I think that's again something that I talked with other attendees on the course, and multiple people felt like that and were surprised and gratified that actually we were all very normal and all just trying to progress our careers. Nobody was sort of out there. But again, that different perspectives and different backgrounds, but all looking for the same experience from the course in terms of stretching and expanding horizons and taking away new tools for the future.
Great. And the thing that's wonderful for me as the program director is seeing everyone arrive with those anxieties, and also seeing those anxieties go away really quickly. You know, I know from experience that the people that come on the program are all very diverse and all unsure of whether they're going to belong, but I also know from experience that they very rapidly realize the value of that diversity and a process of working together through that anxiety. And it's just so exciting for me to see people reinforce each other's confidence first, and then reinforce their learning and their development through the rest of the program. We've got another way of thinking about what the program is for in this diverse learning environment, which is it's for you. It's for the people that are on the program, and for figuring out how they can make as big an impact in whatever way is appropriate for any kind of context that they might be in, whether it's big or small or far or near, making that transition from being just a part of something to really having impact on it is the general goal that we're trying to achieve. And your group of colleagues and previous ones have all indicated that impact is certainly the outcome of the experience from where I'm sitting. Now let's talk a tiny bit about the program content without going into too much detail, because we don't want to give away all our secrets.
No, not all the secrets.
No. But basically, as you might expect, there's a mix of teaching and learning methods, and some of those are familiar and some of them are fresh, we hope, and even innovative and surprising. So obviously there are lectures and class-type work familiar from normal education, but we really emphasize what's called experiential learning, so learning from activities and experiences, and particularly learning from each other through workshops or sharing and reflecting activities, as well as exercises, I guess you could call them, that happen outside of a formal classroom setting. And the combination of formal and informal, of normal and innovative, of lecturing versus experiential learning is very appropriate to people in work in a professional setting, because they have to relate their thinking to their doing very, very quickly. And this mix of learning methods, we hope, is an optimal way to do that. But Claire, tell us a bit about whether or not that worked for you. Are there particular memories that you have of sessions that stand out, either positively or negatively? Maybe some of it was more challenging than you wanted, but maybe some of it was surprising and effective in ways you hadn't expected. Tell us a bit about what it was like.
Oh, I almost don't know where to start, because there is so much from the 3 modules that, without trying to give away all the juicy secrets of the things that people will experience on the course, that I wouldn't want them to get an insider angle on ahead of time. The Mark Strat is one that particularly sticks out from the first module that obviously spreads into the intermodule period, which was very intensive, hugely rewarding, and really interesting to engage so in depth with something. I think that's one of the things we perceived most in detail, that really gave you a lot of time to get stuck into something. But also, nothing is one way of learning. So it was in theory about Mark Strat and business models, but it was also a lot about team dynamics and building those teams and working with people, that you can take so much from any one of the experiences. I think probably from module 1, a surprise for me was how much I enjoyed the accounting module, considering that was one I think that few of us were probably a bit skeptical about how we would find that, and I think a lot of that comes back to not only the specific lecturer on that module, but also just generally you and the team that provide the actual lecture programs, that you make it incredibly engaging for us to be involved with. So,
well, that is indeed reassuring, that if we've made accounting exciting, then we've done what we set out to do. And it's certainly true that the lecturer for that is one of the stars of the program. She's been with us right from the beginning, and she really adds so much value, and also seems to really enjoy teaching this kind of class, these sorts of people in these sorts of ways. And we know from program after program that accounting day is actually one of the highlights, and like you say, Claire, it's one that's a surprise to
yes,
many people that come on.
Something that could have been really dry, I think, and that's something that overall for the program, there's not a dry, hard moment that you feel like you're back in undergraduate education being lectured at for an hour or hours at a time. It's very engaging, and the diversity of the way the program's structured just means you're always on your toes. And that's one thing I would say to anybody considering the course, though. You've got to be ready to come to learn and to try and suck out all of you can from the course, because there's a lot of information and it's crammed into relatively short periods of time. So you've got to want to commit to trying to extract as much as you can from it, because there's so much richness that you can take away. But it's been amazing. But I could go on for hours and hours about all the individual pieces, but there's bits from Module 2 that I think I won't talk about because it would give away some of the exciting experiences. I know everybody was rather aghast at when they suddenly got thrown into the room, and you led us through some activities that will stick with us, I think.
Well, let's keep the mystery alive. There's certainly some things that we want to keep in a place that we can surprise people with them, but their general purpose is indeed to deliver this kind of experiential pressure on your ideas, where we make you review what you think you know and find more things that you really know, and with that you feel empowered and ready to go out and have an impact on your peers and your organization. And a great example of that is the idea that people can be excited by something they didn't think they could be excited by, or can find new ways to refresh what they already know about something. You also mentioned, Claire, this thing called MarkStrat, which is a part of the program that we've added, from the original design, and it's an online simulated business environment, and it's something that exists in other executive education programs, so some people out there listening to the webinar might be familiar with it. But we've integrated it into this program in unique ways so that it's much more than just what it says on the label. It's, as you say, about doing quite a few things at once, learning the basic content of the exercise itself, but also having to experience the pressure of group working with people you've only just met, or of working virtually in a distributed context in between two of the modules of the program when everyone is back at home, and having to integrate that task with their day jobs, and also to do so in an online environment. The MarkStrat simulation embedded within this program and across two of its modules is a good example of how the program challenges but also stretches the capabilities of not just the individual participants, but also the participants working together and working in the context of their own jobs. And though that may sound a little mysterious right now, we hope that for people who attend the program that it becomes clear and valuable and useful fairly quickly. Now, if you're looking at the screen, you can see that two things on our list of program content are down on the bottom of the list, but they're probably two of the most important. One is the social activities, and two is the coaching that's embedded in the design of the program. And I want to ask Claire, our recent participant, to reflect a bit about what she learned from that, or what value she got out of the social activities and the people that she experienced the program with, and then after that we'll turn to talk a little bit about the coaching. But first, what was it like just outside of the classroom? What were the other people like to spend time with, and what kinds of things did you do while you were here in Oxford?
They were a delight. I think, again, I don't know whether it was, we were fortunate that the team dynamics worked so well across the 18 of us that were on the programme, but we spent a lot of time together outside of the formal component. Being local to Oxford, I took on the challenge of navigating people to and from various pub locations, so got stuck right in there helping people navigate around Oxford, which is, although a small city, there's a lot to see and do. And I've come away with real friendships that will last way beyond the programme. And that's not something I think I expected to take away. And it just goes to show that you share this very intense experience and you learn so much about yourself and learn so much from others that you don't just walk away from them, and there's no ongoing connections that you take with you back into your everyday life. So, and a lot of fun, as you will have seen from the social media platforms that the program uses. There's certainly some photos of various people and participants in the bar letting their hair down a little bit after the intensive learning experience. So it's a lot of work hard and play hard, I think, was the ethos of our program alumni.
Fantastic. Well, to me, it's one of the most important parts of the program that we create a camaraderie, a conviviality that will help you not just experience everything in a positive way, but also for the future, because, as you say, you'll carry those friendships forward and you can keep accessing that benefit for the rest of your lives. To me, that's one of the most important aspects of the whole program.
There was just one other thing that I underestimated, again, being local to Oxford, but the opportunities to really get stuck in and see some of the culture and history of Oxford as well. So the fantastic dinners in colleges, the university church experience, and the visit to the Ashmolean as well. It's an extra added benefit, I think, of the program, that you gain the opportunity to learn and experience some of the wonderful city that, working for the university, I think I probably take a little bit for granted.
We really do live in an amazing place, and for those of you who've never seen Oxford, or even for those of you who have and are thinking about returning for a period, it is a unique and uniquely exciting environment to spend any time in, and we make the most of it in the design of the program by taking you out into some of the most special parts of the university for the experiential learning and the social components that are so important. And I'm so glad, Claire, that appealed to you, even as someone who lives and works here. If we can show you what you are already familiar with, but in a new way, then that's exactly what we're trying to do. Now, a few more points to make about the program. We know from a lot of experience that there's an interest in the coaching that's embedded in it. Certainly one of the distinctive aspects of Oxford as opposed to other universities and business schools is its roots in the tutorial teaching method, where students learn almost on a one-by-one or one-to-one basis. We've replicated that pattern by having some sessions in this program on a one-to-one basis. It's less about teaching and more about coaching, which means the coach works with the individual to identify basically a development plan. What are you good at now? What do you need to work on in order to get to the goals that you have for yourself? And those coaching sessions are spread across the 3 modules and take a different emphasis according to people's different needs. Some people make much use of it, others don't make as much use of it, but the shared experience of everyone in the program having time to reflect on their own and develop more self-awareness with some help, we feel is a vital element of the program. Claire, do you have any thoughts about that?
Yeah, well, there's certainly, and again, talking with some of my fellow attendees, some of the, I think, took so much away from the coaching sessions, and have really seen that as an opportunity to drive some real changes that we've seen them make in their career options and the activities they're now pursuing, that has been crystallized as a consequence of having somebody to walk through one-on-one in those coaching sessions. I probably had slightly, not quite that level of experience, unfortunately. I think it took me a little while to get into the mindset of that one-to-one coaching, and to really think about how best to use it. So it was almost, the coaching was a learning experience in and of itself for me as to how to take advantage of that and reflect on the learning that we've been going through. But I saw that as a real asset to the course when I was coming in, but again, I've kind of come at it from a slightly different angle, that my peers on the course effectively became some of my key coaching sources and talking through with them as well. But there's certainly people I know on the course who will be keeping in contact with their coaches and using those as a continuing sounding board as they evolve post the program.
I love the fact that you found a way to get coaching during the program, even if it wasn't in the place that we had planned, that you found that the relationships with your fellow participants had value from a coaching standpoint, because that's exactly what we hope will happen, these sort of serendipitous discoveries of how you can do best for yourself by interacting with others. That's really the underpinning purpose of the whole program. Okay, so we've got a few more points to make about how the program works and a few more bits of factual information. One thing that's crucial is to monitor how you're going, and so much of the program is designed around capturing the learning and planning for the future. And so we structured into it various mechanisms, both old tech and new tech, for involving these two goals together, capturing the learning and planning for the future actions. One thing to point out particularly is that we're taking care to use social media more and more and more, so that we can involve people in conversations even when they're not here in Oxford. Because it's a modular program and people come and go 3 times but still have to interact with each other in between and after those 3 modules, social media help us to do that. As do, of course, other aspects of the program design, like the coaching and the group work and other activities that are spread throughout that time. Claire, you've alluded a little bit to the social media and how that's been an important part of the experience of the program. Give us a little more flavor of what that's been like.
Well, I think when Tumblr was first introduced to us in Module 1, I think there was a little bit of skepticism, at least from me, as to how this was going to work, what it was for. I was a Tumblr newbie, so there was certainly a sort of how does this fit with a formal education program? But as you say, it became a virtual mechanism of touching base with the program whilst you were away, and reconnecting with people and continuing to share experiences. I think particularly for us it evolved into being another mechanism of dialogue on modules as well. So there was a lot of exchange around some of the activities on Module 3 and lots of posting of photos and videos and all sorts to Tumblr, which I've actually, since the program completed, I've gone back and logged back in and just looked back through the sort of the timeline as we all came together, and it really gives you that another way to reflect on kind of the experiences we all went through together on the course. So I was a bit of a skeptic, but no, definitely a convert to the use of Tumblr.
Fantastic. Well, me too. Then the same is true, I think, for a lot of people, that learning new skills is the name of the game, even if you're not sure which skills you're going to learn. And even in the experience of the use of social media on the program, it's been a learning experience for all of us, but one that we are sure is appropriate and effective. Okay, so just a few more points to make. In general, the Oxford Transition to Leadership program is about individuals changing from being managers to leaders, developing impact, and also, because it's about impact, it's not just about individuals, it's also about organizations and the context in which organizations operate. Certainly, the individual is the starting focus of the first module, but then, as explained at the beginning, the learning model moves us through from the individual to a broader context, because leadership is about broadening your skills and making the transition to leadership or to a higher level of leadership, regardless of your starting point. It's about broadening your scope of impact. If you out there listening to the webinar are interested in broadening the scope of your impact as a leader, then no matter what your starting point is or what you feel your potential might be, or even what you feel your current challenges and maybe even weaknesses might be, this program is designed to suit you individually and to help you develop in ways that are most appropriate for you. We hope that in listening to this webinar, and particularly to the experiences of someone who's very recently attended the program, that you're beginning to get a flavor of how we can do that for people that are interested in being a part of it. And moreover, how we can do it in an exciting, exhilarating, and unique way here in Oxford. I'd just like to ask one question out there to the wider world. We know a lot about leadership, but not really how to ensure that people become effective leaders unless they're willing to collaborate in a learning process. Now, we've done a lot of research in the field of management studies about leadership, and one thing that's known is that you can't tell people, here's the recipe, here's how to become a good leader. But we do know that there are a lot of pitfalls to avoid, and it's a good idea to start avoiding those pitfalls right at the point where you're becoming increasingly responsible in leadership roles. So here's a question. What is one of the most common causes of derailment among leaders? And this program is all about answering that question. Now, I can give you the answer now, but I'm going to ask our alumna if she remembers the answer, and if she does, then I'll feel like my work is done, that I have done what I set out to do. So Claire, what is the most common cause of derailment among leaders?
Is this the $1 million question?
This is the $1 million question. You get $1 million.
So taking back and reflecting, actually, and I think this is something I've taken away personally from the course, is about self-awareness and lack of self-awareness. And that's what's changed for me from the course, as well as I think what we could see derailing leaders in generally.
You're absolutely right. You get $1 million.
Excellent.
Lack of self-awareness is the most common cause of derailment among leaders. And if you found through this course that your self-awareness increased, and increased in the context of thinking about your leadership effectiveness, then you have gotten out of it what we had hoped, and I'm delighted to hear that. And I'm also delighted that you've come to share your experiences on this webinar to give some life and some energy to the experience and also to illuminate any insights of what it's like to be a part of the program. So Claire, thank you very much indeed.
Well, thank you for having me. As I say, it's been transformational for me, and so it was a delight to be able to actually share that with you, and to sort of just say to anybody that's considering the course that they really should apply, because it really is fantastic.
Thank you indeed. Okay, now if anyone has any questions, we're happy to answer them. And while you consider whether you'd like to ask a question, I'm going to just put up a slide with the dates of the next program coming up. But leaving that on display, again, to invite anyone to ask any questions through the mechanism of the webinar. And we'll wait a few seconds to see if any arrive. And if not, of course, we invite questions at any time through other channels. And in a few minutes, I will put up the information there for correspondence with our business development professional, my colleague Andy Faulkner, who will be happy to answer questions by email or telephone or even through LinkedIn. The opportunities exist now as well as in the future for answering and asking questions.
Wonderful, thank you. Well, I'm Gemma Smith. I work with Pegram and with Andy on the Transition to Leadership programme. First, I want to thank you, Pegram, and you, Claire, for today's webinar. It's so interesting to hear your thoughts and reflections, Claire, on the programme, and it's obviously very happy that you can join us today. And I hope you don't mind asking that if people have questions afterwards specifically to you, that I could forward those on to you
Not at all.
to help shape their thoughts on the programme and hopefully inform them a little bit more. I do have some questions that have come in that I'd like to put to both of you. Perhaps to you first, Pegram, and then for you to reflect on, Claire. Now, the first one's a really interesting one. I think a lot of alumni tell me this when they come onto the programme, as well as all of our programmes, but particularly Transition to Leadership. And that's around, how will this programme give me more confidence as a new leader? And I think as a manager, sometimes having the confidence is hard, but as a leader, I think that bar is really raised. What are your thoughts on that, Pegram?
Well, my thoughts on that are that this program is designed for that purpose, to develop your self-awareness about what you're really truly good at and also what you can get better at, so that you can raise your capabilities from your current level to this appropriate level for whatever leadership responsibilities you're hoping or planning or being expected to take on, either in the near future or in the far further future. So the program is really about raising self-awareness for the purpose of raising self-confidence. Claire, what do you think about that as a recent participant? Is that a pretty good assessment of how things happen?
You took the words out of my mouth, really. It's so I don't feel there's that much more to add. It is you have this opportunity to reflect, and also a peer group that make you consider how you perceive yourself and how others perceive you in a new light, and that's really constructive. I think you can get stuck in a little bit of a mindset and you're used to interacting with certain people, so it's not only self-awareness, it's other people's awareness of you, and combining that you just come away invigorated and ready to go tackle new challenges. So
okay, tackling at the ready.
Absolutely.
All right. Do we have another question?
We do. So the next one is about how you feel intuition plays its role as a leader. So how can someone harness their intuition and guide their decisions and create greater impact within their teams that they're leading?
Intuition as an input to leadership effectiveness. I think that's a really good question, because it hits at the heart of this whole self-awareness thing. Intuition tends to be based on your skills, but also the way you combine them without thinking about them too mechanically. In other words, people's intuitions come from what they know, but they don't have to work so hard at. And by raising your awareness about what you're good at and what you really need to work on, you're also raising your intuition, the accuracy of it and the frequency of it. And certainly when leadership is a matter of making quick decisions, you can't rely on a mechanical process. You have to rely on intuition. But you also have to know that you're not just shooting from the hip, that you're actually aiming well and wisely because you've worked hard at developing that aim. So I think intuition is an even more evolved version of the self-awareness that we're working so hard to develop on this program. Claire, what do you think about that?
The intuition, the work we did in the last module around intuition was something that I will particularly take away, and I think there were a number of us that really hadn't considered that as an aspect of leadership coming into the program, and again, that sort of hard, soft skill mix, and really considering your leadership more holistically. And it's something that I really found hugely valuable and particularly enriching, and something I'm going to focus far more on in the future than I might have considered doing in the past. And some coming from a academic scientific background, the sense of logic and data and facts being the drivers, but actually trusting that gut instinct, but honing that and using that more consciously, even if you can't rationalize why you're doing it.
Well, I'm really glad to hear you say that, because it's one of the things that I think is so distinctive about this program, particularly that we end on content that is all about developing intuition, finesse, the subtleties, because it's your own unique contribution to make, either to an organization or even to the society where you live and work. And there's no more valuable way to think about your achievements, Claire, as a recent participant, than to emphasize how that intuition has developed in you. And we feel that that's just so crucial to leadership effectiveness that we make it an absolutely essential part of the program overall.
And I think it's just that's part of what I think gives you that confidence. So you mentioned the word unique, is you come away from the program recognizing your unique strengths and how you have value as an individual leader rather than a cookie cutter toolkit that everybody's generically working in the same way. You have more sense of yourself and your own capabilities and value.
Great. Okay. Have we got any more questions, Gemma?
We do, yes. So this next one's a kind of two-part one, really. So when someone's mentioning here that when they become a leader for the first time, of course, that changes the relationship with the people that they're on a management level with to start with. And when they're a new leader, they have new peers. And it's how do they manage those relationships between their existing teams and taking on those new challenges as a leader?
That's a great question, because it's about transition to leadership, which is the title of the course for a good reason. So it's certainly true that you have skills and also networks when you are in a function that extend perhaps so far but no further. And when you have a more general set of responsibilities that is multifunctional, your core set of skills and networks is not as comprehensive as it needs to be for you to be effective. So you need to develop an ability quickly to access wider, broader, more diverse, and also deeper networks in order to be as effective as possible. We've spent a lot of time on the program thinking about the importance of networking to leadership and also offering suggestions and opportunities for you to develop your networks in appropriate ways. Claire, did you find that a valuable aspect of the program, that emphasis on networking as crucial to leadership effectiveness?
Yeah, and network is really one of my pet projects in the role I'm involved in now, and taking some time out to reflect on that a little bit more in a personal capacity rather than facilitating networking of other people has been something that was a bit of an epiphany for me when I was on the course, to think again about my own personal experience and how I use the networks I have to drive my own impact rather than driving the impact for others, and more consciously considering that, and that's something again that I think I'll actively take away into the future. I would say as well, though, I think there's something around not just the program hasn't just seen me develop and go off in a certain direction. It's allowed me to enhance the experience of my team, and I've taken insights away that I've then been able to pass on to them, and not just down into my team but up into, in fact, the head of my department and function. That there's been pieces that the ripples and the impact of the program don't lie with just the person that goes on the program, and I think that's one of the ways again that you enhance the impact overall of the experience.
Great. All right. Now, I know we've got one or two more questions that we can cover in the time available. So what's the next one, Gemma?
The next one is about, as a new leader, I need to achieve tangible results, either short-term or long-term within their business, and naturally within a pressurised environment as well. So how will this program, as well as the holistic leadership that we've talked a lot about, the self-awareness we've talked about today, how will that person enable them to create or achieve those results that need to deliver for their particular organisation as a leader?
The short-term benefits are certainly something that we emphasize equally along with the longer-term benefits. And even though in this webinar we've been talking more about the longer-term benefits, it's great to have an opportunity to address the sort of immediate impact. We certainly feel that in the first module, the emphasis on inventorying your current skill base, your current behavioral traits, and the patterns of your work and interaction with others are all about really understanding what you're good at and helping you to identify how to be better at that in the present. And we know from experience that for the most part people begin to take that self-awareness back into their organization during the 3 modules of the program, experimenting with new techniques of interacting with their peers or doing the responsibilities of their job, in the confidence that they've got a peer group to share those experiments with, and also a coach or faculty support to reflect on how well those experiments are going. So short-term impacts are coming from the modular shape of the program and the fact that we ask people to take their self-awareness back into the job during the full span of the program from beginning to end. Now, Claire, do you have any examples, perhaps from your own experience or those of your fellow participants, of people trying things out during the span of the program and seeing some immediate results?
Well, I think there's two things that come to mind. One is a very specific example of something you said actually in the first module program, which stuck with me, and I keep talking about it, and it's changed the way I think both me and my team are considering some of the activities we're pursuing, which is about growing the pie rather than getting a larger slice of the pie. And that's been something that, as a tidbit, sort of as a little phrase, kind of stuck with me, but actually had real influence in reshaping the way I was considering some of the work we were doing. And that was from Module 1, so that was back in September, and informed some of the projects we were involved with. And then my team has gone away with that renewed, slightly reorientated mindset about how we consider some of the work we're doing.
Well, it's fantastic for me to hear as a teacher that, that things that I say in class are rippling out into organizations. That's certainly exciting for me. But what's more important is that you've found something to take away, to take into your work, and also to share with your colleagues and to put into practice. And that is a real immediate benefit that not only has implications in the short term, but of course becomes the foundation for long-term leadership development. Now, I believe we've got time for one more question in the time available. What is it, Gemma?
Okay, so this is a two-part question. It's around the modular format of the program, which we've talked about a lot this morning. So it's what's the benefits of the program being in a modular format, and how does the program keep participants engaged in between each module?
I'm going to pass this one to Claire. So what are the benefits of the modular, three-modular format, and also how are participants kept engaged between modules?
Well, let's cut it into the two. So I think the modular structure helps both in and of itself, and it's very intensive, very focused, that dedicated time out of your day job to really get stuck into some detailed learning, but then breaking that apart to take that learning, as we were talking about just a moment ago, back into your everyday workplace to reflect, try and make sure that that's consolidated into what you're doing day to day. It's not lost by being in the abstract and removed from the work you're involved with. And it's, again, it's that balance of focus time and then the spread of time back into the workplace that was, I think, a really effective way of managing the structure. And then the second part was around maintaining the momentum almost between the modules. So, well, we talked a little bit about Tumblr. I think, again, a lot of that comes back from the variety of communication channels that the program uses formally. Things like Markstrat and the intermodule working, but also then the informal networks that were created that just you are in touch with a broad range of people in between those modules, which just keeps, you've got a touchstone throughout the whole program.
Well, it's great to know that what we planned has worked. There's no better representation of the experience of the program than listening to a recent alumna. So again, Claire, thank you so much for your input. Your insights into what it's like to be on the Oxford Transition to Leadership program, and for helping us answer the questions of people that are considering attending in their own turn. We've now come to the end of this webinar, and want to thank you all for your interest and attention, and again to point out the contact details of my colleague Andy Faulkner, who's available to answer further questions at any time about the program, how it might fit you, how it might suit your organization, or also to put you in touch with other people who might be able to expand on any of the aspects raised by this webinar or other aspects of the promotional materials for the program.